Blizzard are really pushing the idea of dungeons mattering more in Legion. While it's still early days on the alpha, I have played almost all of the dungeons that are going to be available in Legion, with only a few of them currently being locked on the alpha. This video is going to be focusing on the dungeons themselves. For the most part, heroic mode and challenge mode are not available, so we're going to be talking about the bosses, the dungeons that they're inside, and are they fun. So far, the boss content has been great. Most of the dungeons that I have played have been on normal, but as a part of the Legion dungeon race, I was able to get early access to the Halls of Valor on heroic mode. So for the most part, bosses have readable and decently simple core mechanics. I actually think this is by far the best way to design a dungeon boss, provided those mechanics are appropriately punishing. If something is readable, then it should have a very clear consequence if you mess it up. For a lot of it, I find that the bosses are showing the same design philosophy that Warlords of Draenor had. That, in my book, is great, because I think Warlords shipped with some brilliant dungeon content. Unfortunately, it was fast irrelevant to players, but the content itself was quite great. A few of the bosses do deviate from that pattern, with the likes of, say, the final boss of the Vault of the Wardens being a bit tricky, especially for melee characters. When looking at all of these bosses on normal mode, what is important is thinking, right, what is this going to be like in challenge mode when these mechanics matter if I fail them? From that perspective, I think there is great potential here. Of course, quantity also matters, and Legion is doing quite well on that front. We are currently looking at 10 dungeons on launch: the Eye of Ashara, Halls of Valor, Archway, Maw of Souls, Darkheart Thicket, Suramar Noble District, Vault of the Wardens, Violet Hold, Black Rook Hold, and Neltharian's Lair. While this is a bit less than some other expansions, the dungeons are almost all great, bar the Violet Hold, which sucks. We have yet to hear if they're going to add more dungeons in patches, but given the new challenge mode system, it would seem quite likely. The dungeons also sport some excellent visuals, much like their Warlords of Draenor counterparts. Blizzard's artists continue to do an outstanding job. There is also nice variation between the dungeons. You have some, like say the Halls of Valor or the Archway, that are a bit more lengthy and have a degree of choice in terms of the order that you approach things, and then there's other dungeons like the Maw of Souls, which are quick linear romps with some nice set pieces. Variation is great, and they're definitely doing that here. There is also quite good visual variation between the different dungeons, which is very nice. I am going to talk about some heroic mechanics here, since I do have experience of a heroic dungeon, but this, do bear in mind, by no means reflects all of the content, because I've only done heroic mode Halls of Valor. I found that it added really great mechanics to each boss that made the encounters more challenging and exciting. I've seen some people criticize the dungeons of Legion for their simplicity, but frankly, it's normal mode. What do you expect? Given how heroic and challenge are the meat of the content, it does seem to be bothering with past leveling. From my experience, it is as simple as this. The heroic mode of Halls of Valor added some great mechanics. Looking at a lot of the dungeon journals, it seems like the heroic modes are going to be adding good things. With the way the damage scaling works in challenge mode as you progress to higher levels of it, it will get to the stage where all of the mechanics matter. So from that perspective, I think there's a really good base of content here. Now, the dungeons do tie into the zones quite nicely, with most of the dungeons being established via a storyline of some sort. This was done with most of the Warlords of Draenor ones, but it is a bit more poignant here, and it's definitely a nice feature. So overall, while it is still early days, I think the dungeon content is looking very solid for this expansion. I would suggest that Blizzard add more dungeons in the post-launch content patches, especially ones that coincide with new tiers of raid content. The current dungeons have a solid mechanical base to be built upon in heroic and challenge mode, and I think the breadth of content will easily be enough to last until a follow-up patch, assuming that challenge mode delivers what they say it will, and that there is plenty of content to do in the world of Legion. That's it for me. Let me know what you think about the dungeons down in the comments or via Twitter. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.